Okay. So, good morning, everyone, to Unacademy IS English channel. And today is 23rd of August, and we are going to cover the Hindu and some portions of the PIB as well. Okay. So, good morning once again to all of you. So, the topics that we have selected for today, since today is Sunday, there are considerable number of topics also, and there is some less number as compared to the weekdays. Okay, some important articles, but with respect to the quantitative part, it is lesser in the week portions. Let us see now. First is, what are the US latest allegations against India? This is on the explained page. This is on page number 12. Okay. Then second topic is about, what did Trump say about India's voting system? This is again on page number 12. And then you have, what are retractions and why do they matter? This is related to your science and technology. This is on page number 11. Okay. And then you have Assam elephant habitat recovery hope writes on biochar from invasive plants. Okay, this is on page number 9. This is related to your subject of environment in GS paper 3. Then fifth, government restricts manufacture, sale and distribution of fixed dose combinations containing chlorpheniramine, Maleate and Phenylephrine hydrochloride for use in children below 4 years. Okay, so this is related to your GS paper 2 and social justice, health, okay, as well as governance part of it, health governance. And then you have National Animal Disease Control Program. Okay, both of this fifth as well as sixth is taken from the PIB of yesterday. Okay, these were the important ones that were appearing in the PIB, and therefore we have selected it to study today. Okay, so let us start. So, as you all know, there is advanced means program that Unacademy is offering, and it is going to be available for the platinum batch as well. Okay, this is the price, and if you want to get more details, the details are listed over here. All of these details would be something that would be made available within this program, and if you want more details or inquiry about admission, you can get in contact with the team. Okay, next, I would also like to inform you that since today you have your GS3 paper, okay, it will be ending today, and then you will have the GS4 paper, right? So the GS3 analysis will be taken today. So you have to go to the Unacademy IS English channel, and you will have to subscribe to it or join this event. All right. Only then you will be notified about when the when the event would be, when the video will come out. Okay. So let us start. First is, what are the US latest allegations against India? Okay. So first is page number 12. It is a part of your GS2 international relations, because we talk about the two countries, US as well as India. Okay. And GS3 as well, because we are talking about the globalization, that is the global trade. As and when US imposes some kinds of tariffs or sanctions on India, you will find that the trade India does with US becomes limited. Okay. And this can severely affect the growth story of India. So this is what the article tries to capture. Okay, US in the past has gone for a number of sanctions or tariffs on other countries, as well as its influence has been there on India as well. Okay, so there has been multiple examples that have been quoted by the author, that such kind of sanctions have limited what India could do with its economy. All right. And the latest allegations against India may be leading to more sanctions or more penalties incoming. And with that case, India's growth story might be limited. Okay, let us study about this. So, first of all, White House has come out with a report. What is that report? It is the Great Transshipment Scam. Okay, which it has accused about 40 countries, including India, of helping China evade US tariffs. Okay, so in brief, what has happened? US is saying that India is acting as a mediary, intermediate between US and China. All right, as you all know, US will place certain amount of tariffs. There has been considerable tariff wars in the past between US and China. Okay, so they will say that China will give their products to India, or India will procure the products from China and then sell it to US. In effect, China, which was being penalized with huge tariffs, high tariffs by US. Now this is being evaded because of this kind of a intermediary present between US and China. And not just India, they have named about 40 countries in this process. All right. So this is transshipment. That means you are acting as a intermediary of the Chinese products. All right. So let us see how true are these allegations. First of all, what is the great transshipment scam? First of all, US and Chinese economies have become deeply intertwined. All right. We know that China is known as the global manufacturing hub. It is known as the global manufacturing hub, while United States is supposedly its market. And you will find a number of investments, Chinese investments in the US markets. All right. So their economy are intertwined. Okay. Understand this from this point of view also, that if the US dollar goes down, if it depreciates, it might also affect Chinese investments in the United States market. Okay. So that is how the economy is intertwined with each other. Now moving to the next part. US started running huge trade deficits with China. Okay, obviously because US is the market and China is the manufacturing hub. So you will find that the trade deficit would be there. Okay, trade deficit. That means more amount of imports would be recorded at the US markets. All right, and this number of imports are there. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States, he has said that we must levy tariffs on the US trade partners. Okay, he has emphasized on it time and again. Okay, beginning with China in 2018. In 2018, US had imposed tariffs ranging from 7.5 to 100% on goods from China. This was in way back in 2018. Okay, also, on the products like electric vehicles, semiconductors, and medical products under the Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 for unfair trade and tech practices. Okay, so this kind of a tariff was being levied on China, okay, on certain products. Okay, and this they did from the legislation of Trade Act of 1974. All right, what is this Trade Act of 1974? So this has been written here. Trade Act of 1974, it is also referred to as Section 301. Section 301. Okay, this is something that you often see in the news. What is Section 301? It talks about the responsibility of Office of the United States Trade Representative, USTR. USTR has the responsibility, it has a range of responsibilities and authorities to investigate and take action. What kind of action? It is to impose a tariff whenever it finds that there are unfair trade practices. Okay, so they can impose a tariff. So whenever you find Section 301 written, it means that it is giving the roles and responsibilities to the office of USTR so that they can impose a tariff whenever they think that the trade practices are unfair. And under that itself, in 2018, a number of tariffs were placed on various goods on the Chinese products. Okay, so it ranged from 7.5% to 100%. Now, so One line here is that it resulted in shrinking of the US trade deficit with China in 2019 and 2020. Okay, so this led to the shrinking of trade deficit. Okay, the simple equation here is that if China is the manufacturing hub and if you place more cost on importing its goods from China, you will find that it will not be as competitive as the local market, or it will not be able to compete with the products of the other countries. All right, so slowly you will find that the Chinese products will start disappearing from the market, and thereby it will also reduce the trade deficit that US was seeing with China earlier. Okay, now on July 24, 2026, it added a further 12.5% tariff for gaps in forced labor compliance. It also said in July 24, 2026, US came on to say that now you are not complying with the forced labor norms. Okay, that means you should not deploy forced labor in your production of goods and services. Okay, and because you are not able to do so, I am imposing 12.5% tariff, further tariff. Okay, this was based on forced labor as well as lack of comprehensive legal import prohibitions. Now comes the allegation. The allegation is that since 2018, because they imposed this kind of a tariff, Chinese exporters have found a way. Okay, they have found an alternative route through which they can evade these tariffs. They knew that US is ultimately going to go on increasing tariffs, and their products, their goods may not find the market. So let us do one thing. Chinese exporters, they started evading tariffs. How did they evade tariffs? Through the third countries, through the intermediary countries. Okay, so this is what the report says. This is what the report says. So what will happen? You'll find that it will be shipped through jurisdictions where limited assembly, finishing, repackaging, relabeling, or documentation changes. It would create only an appearance of different national origin. Okay, again, I'm drawing this diagram. Let us say it is about India. So from China, India will import a number of things, okay, and then India will export it to US. So it will appear that the origin of this product, the national origin of this product is India. Why? Because there would be very limited amount of modification being done to the product that it has imported from China. Okay, so let us say it imported a product A from China. Okay, it did a very slight modification to it, a dot. Okay, it added something else, and now this product is going to be exported to US. US will record its national origin as India, that this product is coming from India. Okay, ultimately what the effect is, that China is getting to evade the tariffs that is directly imposed on it when it goes for a direct trade with US. Okay, this is what the report is highlighting. So I have a table here. Okay, so in 2018, what has happened? Development was US imposed 7.5% to 100% tariffs on Chinese goods. Okay, what is the key point here? Section 301, under Section 301 of Trade Act 1974. Now, 2018 onwards, what happens is China routed exports through third countries. This is your intermediary countries. This is for the reason of evading US tariffs. Okay, mind you, this is the report that is saying it. Then, what is the method? The intermediary country will have limited modification. For example, limited assembly, limited repackaging, relabeling, documentation changes. It will change the country of origin for the product. So, it created an appearance of a different country of origin. Okay, is the voice clear now for all of you? Is the voice clear for all of you? You can just reply in the comments. Okay. So it is clear to everyone? Yes, everything now you are understanding. Okay, so let us continue. Okay, so this much is there. This much you have understood. Method was limited modification. This modification would lead to the appearance of the product being from a different country of origin. We have understood this through an example that India would modify the product and Chinese product would come to India. It would be modified in India, and then US, when it imports that product, will label it as country of origin for India. Okay. So during 2019 to 2020, what happened? Because of all of these developments, what happened was US trade deficit with China declined. US trade deficit with China, it declined. Okay, this was something that was on the cards. Definitely it would happen because it has imposed so much of tariffs on it. The point here is that direct imports from China fell. But we are talking about the direct imports, not the indirect ones. We are talking about direct imports. The indirect imports, that means through an intermediary, it may continue. So on 24th July 2026, again US comes in and adds 12.5% tariff. It says that you are not complying with the norms that are against the forced labor, and there are weak import prohibitions. All right. So this is the story of increasing tariff, and here you will have the story of decreasing direct trade. Decreasing direct trade of shipping products from China to US. Okay. Okay, okay. Is it better now? So, what is India's involvement? Let us see. What is India's involvement here? If US is placing so many tariffs on China, if it is placing so many tariffs on China, then what is the involvement of India? India is an intermediary, and that is the allegation that India is also facing. Okay, so White House has identified more than 40 countries associated with elevated illegal transshipment risk, with India among the top enablers. It is one of the top enablers of China's evasion of tariffs. Okay, so other countries which are also named here are Mexico, Canada, European Union, Japan, and South Korea. Okay, all of these are other countries as well. So when we talk about this, they are importing Chinese goods, they are modifying them marginally. Okay, slight modification is there, and then they are exporting to the United States at tariffs below what these goods would have faced if they had directly been exported from India. So just see here, we see that China cannot go for a direct trade. A direct trade with United States would be very, very costly. Okay, so it goes through an intermediary. Okay, this is the transshipment hubs. These are called transshipment hubs, and the report talks about them as being enablers of Chinese indirect trade. The examples they give is Mexico, India, and Vietnam. Okay, and it has been quoted within the report that with respect to 2025, the year reference year is 2025, they find that almost $67 billion. Okay, this is the approximate value of US bound goods that have been transshipped from China. That means China has indirectly sent how much amount of goods? $67 billion. $67 billion. Okay, and the tariff revenue loss of tariff revenue Because of this indirect trade by China, US has estimated that there has been a loss of $28 billion. Okay, if Chinese products would be entering into the US markets directly, then there would be a tariff revenue of $28 billion, which the US has lost because of this indirect trade. Okay, yes, I think you should increase the volume because the reception from my side is perfect. Okay, just try to increase the volume. Okay, so what does this mean for the United States? What does this mean for the United States? US tariff policy has failed to reduce the US imports and increase the domestic production. Understand this, that when we are talking about United States is saying that China should we are importing a lot of products from China, so let me impose tariffs. Now, when they impose tariffs, it means that the trade deficit declined. When the trade deficit declined, still it finds that there are certain intermediaries like Mexico, India, Vietnam. They are acting as a transshipment of the Chinese products to the US. Okay. But US also has to understand that they are the ones who are not reducing their imports. Okay. They are always having this demand from the global markets. Okay. So US tariff policy has failed to reduce US imports and increase the domestic production. Okay. That is, domestic production has not increased, although they have been imposing tariffs on the other countries. Look at this table here. It says import category in 2017 and 2025. Remember, 2018 was the time when, under Section 301 of Trade Act, they started imposing tariffs on China. So, import category in US imports from China, how much? $525.8 billion. Okay, this was the amount of imports. Now, in 2025, because of successive imposition of tariffs, it has reduced to $327.5 billion. What is the net change? You will find it is $198.3 billion, almost a $200 billion change. Now, if US wants to evade, if US wants to avoid Chinese products or the global market which are exporting their products to US, they also need to have domestic production. All right. So, in that case, we see that total US imports in 2017 it was $2.41 trillion. In 2025, it was $3.5 trillion, a net increase of $1.09 trillion. Okay, so they are importing $1.09 trillion more than what they were doing 8 years before. All right, so certainly they have a demand, and also for this demand, there exists a market to supply this demand. Okay, because the demand is not being satisfied by your local production or your domestic production, it is not being satisfied by that. Okay, therefore you will be importing at a much higher value. So in short, the US has replaced many Chinese finished products with imports from other countries. So India, it is just about China. It has reduced the trade deficit, but it has gone on to the other countries. It has started trading, importing from the other countries. So it is just about, it has changed the source of imports, but it has failed to reduce the America's overall dependence on imported goods. Okay, it is just like blaming the other countries of exporting Chinese products when your demand is already as such. Okay, that means your dependence is much more. US dependence on the products is much more, and still you are imposing tariffs on these products. Okay. Now, what are the implications of India? This was all about US and China. What are the equations between them and how they are coping up with it, how China is coping up with it. But what about India? With respect to India, also, we have been at the edge with respect to Mr. Trump. He has found fault with India's tariffs on luxury motorcycles. So India reduced them. Okay. With respect to Russia's war with Ukraine, also, we were talking about importing the Russian oil. Then his government hiked the tariffs on imports from India to 50%. This was a penalty. Okay. And he also blamed India for financing Russia's war with Ukraine by importing Russian oil because we were buying it. It was going into the revenue that Russia earns, and therefore it could fund the war. Okay, that was the allegation he was making. Recently, also, there was a bill that was passed by the US Senate, okay, of 100% being levied on India for its Russian oil imports. Okay, the bill has it is yet to be introduced and passed in the House of Representatives. So, seeing all of this, we may find that the Great Transshipment Scam report, it may carry some kind of penalties in the future. Although we are not sure, although it has not been announced, okay, that the enablers of these Chinese products would also face some kind of tariffs or whatever. But in the future, this may become a scenario. Okay, but this possibility remains for us. Okay, and now the second part of this article, which talks about how could India's economy be impacted. How could India's economy be impacted? There can be a blow to its growth story. Understand this, that India has been importing raw materials. Now, let us see the equation between China and India. China and India. Yes, India has been importing products from China. Okay. Earlier, you will find that we were importing finished products or finished goods from China. Okay. India was importing finished products from China. But now India is importing intermediary products. Intermediary products. That means India also wants to increase its manufacturing capabilities. Now, what we are importing is raw materials or intermediary products from China, and then we are modifying it. We are trying to assemble or make it into a product that is useful, assemble it into a product, and then selling it to the other countries. The point here is that if such kind of an equation is tried to be destroyed, for example, if there is a tariff being placed on Indian products by the US, it is going to destroy our growth story. The reason being that we depend upon China for the intermediary products. Okay. And this kind of a relation may also destroy our manufacturing industry. Right. So you can see here that there are certain comparisons of how the shift in composition has taken place with respect to our imports from China. You can see this, that we talk about electronic components. Okay, these are intermediary products. So you will see that the trend of importing electronic components from China as an intermediary product for manufacturing our finished product, it has risen sharply. Okay, about telecom instruments, manufactured fertilizers, consumer electronics, all of these are finished products. Okay, we have stopped with respect to them, and it has seen a considerable decline. Finished products have seen a considerable decline when we imported from China. Again, electric machinery, chemicals, plastics, which are intermediary products or which are the ones who serve as the raw materials for making bigger products, it has again increased. Okay, so the key takeaway here is that India's imports from China are shifting from finished good towards intermediate and manufacturing inputs. All right, and that is how the economic activity with respect to manufacturing in India can be damaged. Now, this is a mains question. The restructuring of US China trade has not necessarily reduced the global dependence on Chinese production. Rather, it has altered the trade routes and supply chain patterns. Discuss with reference to the transshipment, tariff measures, and India's changing import composition from China. Okay, so how do we write this answer? first of all, we start with introduction. Okay, in introduction, we can talk about the US China tariff war since 2018. Okay, we can also mention the section 301. Okay, then in the body part of the answer, in body part, you can write first the tariff strategy of US. Okay, you can write about how it increased from 7.5% to even or 100% for specific products. Second, we can also write about how the US imports from China, how they declined. Okay. Third, you could also talk about, or you could make it in a diagrammatic representation that Mexico, India, Vietnam, and then China, and then United States. Okay. What was the loss? You could write here dollars lost in tariff revenue. Okay. First, this is your transshipment. Then you have the scale of diversion. Okay, that means how much amount of the products in terms of dollars was being transshipped. Okay, then you could talk about the paradox because it is also talking about rather it has altered the trade routes. So here the paradox, because you have already explained the trade routes, now the supply chain patterns. Now you talk about the paradox that US has not been able to create increase in its domestic production, and that is why it is relying on importing from other countries. Okay, you here you can give the data, and then you write conclusion with respect to India. First you will write way forward. Okay, because with respect to India, you will find that the composition of our trade with China has also changed. Okay, that means we have moved from finished products to intermediary products. Okay. And what is the way forward for us? You could write that. All right. So I'm just giving you the keywords. Try to write an answer based upon the information that has been given to you. Okay. So next, this is GS2 IR polity. And this is what did Trump say about India's voting system. Okay. Mhm. So let us see what is the story so far. So, President Donald Trump posted on a social media platform that India's Chief Election Commissioner Ganesh Kumar has asked his administration how elections are being held in US without a valid photo identity. Okay, so it has come to the notice that the voting process in United States, it does not have a process in which you are required to have a valid photo identity card. Okay, something that is being practiced in India, something that the voters of India will definitely have. Okay, also another thing that has been highlighted is that just 1% of India's 64.64 crore electors, they voted by mail. Okay, while with respect to United States, you will find that the percentage is much more higher. Okay, and in this case, Trump has said that the Congress shall pass Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. This is your Save America Act. Save America Act. Okay. Now, this Save America Act would require that you must have a proof. You must have a documentary proof of citizenship if you want to vote in the federal elections. If you want to vote in the federal elections, you need to have a documentary proof of your citizenship. Plus, you need to have a photo ID. You need to have a photo ID to cast a ballot. Both of these are requirements under the Save America Act. What is Save America Act? It is Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. Okay, so both of these are required, and they have said that let us try to implement it. Okay, there has been a demand that they must pass it. Okay, they have been citing Indian standards also of the democratic elections. Now let us see how are elections conducted in United States and how do they differ from the elections in India. Okay, so here is the difference table, or you can read it from this part also. So the constitutional basis, when we talk about United States, it is mentioned in Article 1, Section 4. Okay, it is talks about the elections clause. While for India, it is mentioned in Article 324 and it talks about the responsibility of Election Commission of India. When we talk about election authority, there is no single national authority for the United States. But for India, you will find that it is Election Commission of India that will take the responsibility, that will be the authority for conducting elections. When we talk about administration, okay, who takes on the administrative decisions? It will be the states, counties, and municipalities. Okay, it is basically about determining the times, places, and manners of which the federal elections will be conducted. Okay, when we talk about India, it is again ECI, that is Election Commission of India, that has a machinery. Okay, machinery to supervise this administration. Federal body, there is Federal Election Commission, FEC, Federal Election Commission. It will, however, mainly deal with campaign finance. While when we talk about the Election Commission of India, it is responsible for the overall supervision, responsible for overall supervision of the elections. When we talk about the nature of United States elections, it is highly decentralized because you see that election authority as well as administration, it is mainly concerning the states. Okay, that means it can be as per the states who will take decisions with respect to the time, place, and manner in which the elections are being conducted there. Okay, they are the ones that will determine it. State legislatures can determine it. Okay, but here it is more centralized and uniform, also because ECI is a constitutional body and it has listed, the constitution has listed all the provisions with respect to it. Now one thing, if you notice, with respect to India, everything comes under the control of ECI when the elections are concerned. When we talk about elections, it is Election Commission of India. Okay, while here you will have different states which have different opinions, or they will have different types of rules that they will make. Okay, that is the reason you can also use this table, because sometimes they will talk about the constitutional difference between United States and India, or comparison of Constitution of India with respect to the other constitutions of the world. Okay, now United States Congress also passed the National Voter Registration Act 1993. Okay, this is one act. And then you have the second act. This is Help America Vote Act. Okay, so in this National Voter Registration Act, you have the states. The states will offer voter registration at motor vehicle and public assistance offices. That means the voters can register themselves at these offices. Okay, it is dealt with which act? National Voter Registration Act 1993 of the United States. When we talk about Help America Vote Act 2002, it is something that provides funding for the states to buy new voting machines and called for statewide electoral database. Okay, so this is providing funding. So we have funding plus statewide elector database. Okay, and then here you have the National Voter Registration Act. It is for registration of voters. Okay, so here registration of voters is something that is initiated by the elector. That means if you want to vote and if you want to get yourself registered as an elector, you can go to these offices, whether it is motor vehicle offices, public assistant offices, you can get yourself registered. That is elector initiated. Now, this implies that voter eligibility in US is therefore a state concern and registration is elector initiated. Here, one important distinction, as we were seeing from the previous table between India and the United States, is that the documentary proof of citizenship is not demanded. Okay, when we talk about the voting process in India, oftentimes you will find that they will ask you for your Aadhaar card or they will ask you for a valid photo ID issued by the government. Okay, here on you will find that this kind of a documentary proof of citizenship is not demanded. Also, they have this, they will have potential elector has to affirm. How do they determine it? They have to, the elector has to affirm the citizenship under the penalty of perjury. That means lying under oath. Okay, you are lying under, you're affirming to it, but you are lying. Okay, so this is going to be an act of offense. So this is how the registration of voters take place. That means there is no demand of photo ID, there's no documentary proof of citizenship. Okay, in this case, with regards to India, we have this kind of a registration process in which the photo ID is also validated. Okay, here only the affirmation by the citizen is done. Now, the states, different states will have different rules. So, 36 states in the United States, they have some form of identification at the polling place, and 23 ask for a photo ID. That means there is nothing uniform with respect to the photo ID being asked or the proof of citizenship that is to be established by the elector. Now, this is unlike electoral rolls that are compiled in each state via house to house enumeration conducted by ECI. Eligible electors, whoever becomes eligible, this is now the case with respect to India, they are issued electoral photo identity card. This is epic, right? We are, if you are already, you are already above the voting age, so you would be issued with this electoral photo identity card. Though other documents like Aadhaar can be used as a identification at the booth as well. Okay, that means we also require at times the photo ID at the booth. Now, once we talk about the affirmation by the person who is to be registered as a voter, who wants to be registered as a voter, if there is an affirmation done by, so we have seen with respect to US that there has to be registration done. Okay, registration of voters, elector initiated. If he or she has to be registered as a voter, they have to go for affirmation. Now, there arises a possibility where a non-citizen can also affirm. Okay, and citing this kind of an issue, they are pushing for the act. They are pushing for the Save America Act. All right, they are pushing, in Americans are pushing for that. But again, these claims are not met with actual data. The actual data says that non-citizens, the people who affirm but yet they are not citizens, they are not having the citizenship of United States, they are very, very less. You can read here that Department of Homeland Security has told Nevada's election administrators this month that it had identified just 185 potential non-citizens so far. Okay, so this problem is not as big, right? It is not as big to go for pushing of this kind of an act, that is Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. Okay, So, what is the Save America Act? We have seen earlier that requires every new registering elector or the existing elector who wants to update his or her record, they have to produce passport or birth certificate or naturalization papers. Okay, naturalization papers along with a government ID. This is your Save Act, Save America Act. Remember this Save America Act. That means proof of citizenship and a government ID. Also, the mail in voters will also have to include enclose a copy of their photo ID. Okay. Even after this, the Department of Homeland Security could flag non citizens for removal. Okay. Now, this is a problem. The government wants to push for it. The government wants to push for the Save America Act. However, the Bipartisan Policy Center in the United States, what does it estimate? It estimates that if you are going to require these documents, because the 20 million eligible American citizens do not have a ready access to all of these documents, whether it is a passport or a birth certificate. And also, the newly registering young adults will also face a problem in producing these documents. Okay, and that is the reason there is a opposition to Save America's Act. Okay. Now, there is some kind of a parallel being drawn to the special intensive revision process in India. Okay. Here we talk about electors. What is SIR? SIR process. So this process, this has undergone a lot of, there has been a lot of concern regarding this process, but ultimately the Supreme Court has said that it is within the ECI's statutory mandate to go for this. Okay, what is the process? Electors must self enumerate on forms distributed door to door by the ECI after scrutiny by election officials who will compare the forms with previous SIR. It is basically they are going to match it. Okay, so some time back, like they are conducted 2 decades ago. Okay, so the historic data of you being an elector or a voter, it is going to be matched with the present day data, whether you are living in the same home, whether you have the same number of family members, whether someone is alive or dead and they are still on the electoral roll. Okay, so all of these things will be verified again in this special intensive revision process. All right, so this process is taking place, and this has three phases of SIR conducted by ECI, and there has been considerable number of removal or deletion of names from the electoral roll. Okay, so that is why it was raised as a concern. Like, for example, there were 7 crore names that were deleted during the process. Then, with respect to SIR, there was drastic fall in gender ratio. Okay, at some places you will find that there was skewed data with respect to the religious representation. Okay, that means more number of a particular religious group were being deleted from those electoral rolls. However, Supreme Court has held that the exercise was well within the ECI's statutory mandate. Okay, but effectively, what do we have to see from this? Not just we are not looking into the politics part, but we look into this that it has shifted the onus of verifying voter eligibility onto electors. That means you must be able to verify, you must be able to match your details that were given in the past. Okay, that is how your eligibility is going to be established, right? So, this kind of a parallelism is being drawn with the Save America Act and the SIR process. Okay. Now, this is a mains question. Electoral integrity and voter inclusion often involve competing considerations. Compare the electoral administration and voter registration systems of India and the United States in this context. I want you to write and attempt in the comment box itself the introduction, body, and conclusion for this answer. All right. Start with a befitting introduction. Try to divide the body part into different headings. All right. And then write a conclusion for it. Okay. Try to attempt it. This is your homework. And you must just write the structure of it. Now, let us move to the next article. This is on page number 11. This is talking about GS3 Science and Technology about retractions. It talks about retractions alone do not protect India's scientific record. Okay, we are talking about the kind of papers, let us say scientific papers, okay, or research papers. Now, a lot many times what happens is that these research papers are published. All right, they are published in a journal, but after they are published, they are again retracted. That means the author of these papers will say that the theory given here or the scientific evidence given in my paper is unreliable and therefore I want to unpublish it. Now it no longer stands. It no longer stands. What is the problem if they are doing this? If they are doing this, what is the problem? You will find that a number of research papers will establish a lot many scientific principles on these research papers which may be retracted at a later date. Okay, that means your science papers, research papers are based upon the retracted papers. Okay, that means if the foundation of your paper has been retracted, then how can you establish your own research paper? Okay, so it creates a cascading effect on all those kind of research papers which are retracted and subsequently deriving evidence from the retracted research papers. All right, so let us read about this. First, there has been retraction watch database. Okay, what it has stated that there was an Indian scientist in an institute in Lucknow. They have racked up 45 retractions. So many retractions. That means 45 research papers they have given out and then they have withdrawn all of those. They have unpublished those papers. Then there was another researcher. What he has done? He is at a university in Kolkata and he has published 300 scientific papers in a year. 300 per year. Can you imagine? 300 per year. It means that almost you are going for one paper per day. One paper per day. Okay, you talk about this person, one paper per day, this is almost next to impossible. It feels like there has been a scam. And also this person has retracted 6 papers. They have retracted, they have unpublished 6 papers that they published. Now first of all, let us understand what are retractions. So there is a retraction. It is a mechanism that will kick in when the scientific paper published in an academic journal is found to be so flawed as to merit being removed from the scientific literature. Okay. Now understand this, that there can be honest mistakes. Okay. Because of honest mistakes, you may have included some ideas in your scientific paper that may be unreliable. Okay, and you want to caution the scientific community against it. That is why you want to retract the scientific paper that you have given out. Okay, however, there has been a practice that feels that it is not the honest error, it is actually a deliberately manipulated material. Okay, because honest error, you will find that the scientific community will always appreciate it and they will be forgiving in nature. But for the deliberately manipulated material, there is no such kind of forgiveness. They have given an example also of a person named John Darcy. He had over 80 papers retracted for spreading inaccuracies and falsehoods. Okay. Now, just to know how big is this problem, first thing is that between 2020 and 22, you will find that 2.5 times more papers were retracted as compared to between 2017 and 19. Okay, that means in the 2 years 2017 to 19 versus 2020 to 2022, 2.5 times more papers were retracted. What were the reasons? The reasons were either plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism would be effectively you are just copying the core part of the scientific paper. Editorial conflicts, then image manipulation, and one very important thing that you should know, that is the use of paper mills. Paper mills. Okay, we will learn about paper mills in the next slide. So all of these were cited as the issue. In fact, paper mills was the main issue. Okay. Another thing that was seen was during COVID-19. You will find that in this pandemic, a lot many papers were fast tracked for the peer review process. Okay. In 2023, you will find that 10,000 papers were retracted as compared to 10 years earlier. Only 1,600 papers were retracted. Okay, 10,000 papers were retracted in 2023, only 1,600 in 2013. Okay, so this is on the rise. It is on the rise. It has risen by almost 10 times. Let us see. Now, what is retraction index? It is number of retractions during a given time period multiplied by 1,000 and divided by total number of published articles. All right. This is said to be your retraction index. Retraction index. That means how many papers were unpublished over the total number of published articles. It also points to an important direction, that there has been a greater chance of paper being retracted from a high impact journal than from a low impact one. Okay, than a low impact one. So here impact refers to the impact factor. That means average times a paper was cited in the last 2 years. For example, I have a paper, okay, scientific research paper. This is cited in paper, another paper, second paper, third paper, fourth paper, fifth paper, sixth paper. Okay, this becomes a high impact. It is highly impacting. Why? Because so many research papers are going to cite this paper. Now, suppose this paper is retracted. Now it is retracted. What will happen to all of them? All of them, will they have scientific reliability of their research methods? They may not have it. Okay, that is why this is a high impact. It is going to have a high impact factor. Okay, so it was likely that these kind of high impact factor papers were going to be retracted more in probability as compared to the low impact factor ones. Now, why do scientists falsify papers? What is the reason that they will falsify papers? So one reason is paper mills. Paper mills. Okay, paper mills is like what they will do. It will be enterprises that will give out fake or low quality journal papers, and then they will sell them to scientists. Okay, so scientists will have multiple motives of publishing their research papers. Okay, so paper mills would be the ones that will have no concrete scientific evidence. Okay, they will fast track the review process. Okay, they will try to falsify it and then get the papers printed or published in the journals. Okay, so these are paper mills. Paper mills, why? Because they are able to, with respect to quantity, they can bring out high volume of scientific papers within a very short time. That is paper mills. Okay, and worldwide there has been linked to Russian, Iranian, and Chinese paper mills. All right, so this is going to be, it can be retracted at a later date. Why do they do it? Why do the scientists do it? It is because primary criterion for their institutes or universities ranking is the research output. That means how much papers have you published this year. That is going to increase your university ranking or decrease it. Okay. Second, it is also going to get you promoted. This is another motive. Third, it is also a possibility of getting you a grant or getting awards, getting recognized. So this whole culture is about publish or perish. Publish or perish. Yeah, that means that either you go for publishing of these scientific papers, research papers, either you publish it or you get perished in the process. That means you do not have a standing in the research community. Okay, there is a very important line, and I want this line to be there in your notes. That is, all honest scientists are victims of scientists who commit this misconduct. Okay, so the author closes his argument by saying that can we have a situation in which the journals will detect the bad papers with artificial intelligence, and whether we can evaluate research quality over quantity. That means how much addition to the scientific knowledge has this paper contributed. It is not just about the number of papers that a scientist publishes in a year, it is also about how much of the research quality is going to be essential for the scientific knowledge. Okay. Now coming to the next article, page number 9. This is GS3 environment, and this concerns Assam's elephant habitat. So it is reclaiming Assam's elephant habitat one weed at a time. Okay, here they are going to talk about invasive alien plants. Now, time and again, you'll find that UPSC will ask about these questions, invasive alien species also. They will ask about them and they will ask you in the MCQ format. Okay, they will essentially want you to know the names of these invasive alien species. Also, along with that, how does it affect the biodiversity? How does it affect the biodiversity? Okay, so let us see. First of all, the quality of an elephant habitat could turn a botanical liability into a carbon rich asset. Okay, so they are saying that there is a project that they are establishing with respect to the elephant habitat. Okay, you know that degradation of habitat is one of the problem of biodiversity loss. Degradation of habitat is one of the, you might have heard about this term, evil quartet. And in that habitat degradation is one of the evil quartet. Okay, other one is also invasive alien species. Invasive alien species. Okay, evil quartet is the four reasons why the biodiversity loss is there. Now, what the article is saying that if we are trying to improve the quality of elephant habitat, okay, habitat of elephants, Asiatic elephants, they are degraded, then it could turn a biobotanical liability, that means removing the invasive alien species, into a carbon rich asset. And how is that possible? First of all, let us understand that there has been a huge presence of invasive alien plants. Okay, when there is invasive alien plants, what they will do? They will compete with the native plants. These native plants are the ones that provide nutrition to the herbivores, to elephants also. Is this kind of a nutrition available from invasive alien plants? No, it is not. Another thing, if you do not know about invasive alien species, let me tell you here. Invasive alien species or plants. First of all, it is invasive, which means that it can, it has a high regenerating ability. High regenerating ability. That means even in adverse conditions, it can grow very, very rapidly. Difficult to remove. And it is alien. That means it does not belong, but it does compete. It competes with the native plants. Okay, so two things. One, it can grow very rapidly. Second, it will compete with the native plants. And when it does so, it eliminates the food that is available as nutrition for the elephants. Okay, for the herbivores. That is the problem. So, in Assam, you will find that there are three species, invasive alien plant species. You have, please remember this name, Lantana camera, Chromolina odorata, Chromolina odorata, and Micania micrantha. Micrantha. So these are the three dominant invasive alien plant species. They are competing with the plant communities and they are constraining the regeneration of the native plants. Okay. Now, there is a Guwahati based biodiversity conservation organization by the name Aranyak. What kind of methods are they deploying? Okay, more important than the name, it is the methods that they are deploying to remove these invasive alien plant species. First of all, there is native generation vegetation recovery through targeted IAP management. This is your invasive alien plants management. Okay, simply they are going to pluck it out. Okay, pluck it out along with the roots. If they leave the roots, it will regenerate itself again. There is no use of doing such kind of management. First is this. Second, there is seed ball assisted regeneration. You can see here what is seed ball assisted regeneration. That is, you will have seeds that are embedded in the clay. Okay, it will be made into round balls like this, these round balls, and then it will be spread out in the field. Okay, it will be spread out in the field. So now it will not be, it will have the necessary nutrients to grow. Okay, with the rainfall it will also grow at a faster pace, and you will also find that it is not at the risk of being eaten by any animals, right? So these are some benefits. This is your seed ball assisted regeneration. And third is conversion of cleared biomass into biochar. Understand this, that when we are talking about invasive alien plants, you have example of Lantana camara. Okay, what they are doing is they are removing it manually. Okay, and this biomass that is collected when you remove the invasive alien plants, this biomass is removed and then it is converted into biochar. Biochar. Okay, let us see what is it. So biochar is a fine grained porous charcoal like substance. This is made by heating organic waste in a controlled environment with little to no oxygen. Okay, that is when you burn this biomass with less amount of oxygen or in anaerobic conditions, then this biomass will convert into stable solid form of carbon. It will resist decay. Okay, that means it will not decay as much as fast as it would with respect to when it was a biomass. Okay, biomass will be decomposed by the elements, by the biotic components, microorganisms present in the environment. Okay, but biochar will be relatively stable. So it is stable solid form of carbon that resists decay and can remain in the ground for thousands of years. Okay, here is the process. So this is your organic waste. Okay, suppose this is Lantana camara. Now this you have in pyrolysis unit. That means very little amount of oxygen is there. You do not burn it to become an ash. No, you do not go up till this process. You are just heating it. Okay, when you heat it, this thermal process transforms the biomass into a stable solid form of carbon. You can see biochar is fine grained porous charcoal like substance. Now this will resist decay. It will not decay as fast, and therefore the carbon that is contained within it will not move to atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. Okay, if it moved to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, then there would be possibility of climate change. That means more amount of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. So this resists the decay and this remains in the ground for thousands of years. Also, due to this structure, you will find that it has influence on soil water retention. That means greater water retention can be seen when it is mixed with soil. Secondly, there is greater retention. And third, it also provides for a good microbial habitat. Okay, it is important because soil biota is important for the growth of crops. Okay, so that was about the Assam elephant habitat. Now, moving on to the next one, This is from PIB, GS2, health and governance. Okay, I have taken things which are important from our prelims point of view. So we will have a quick look at that. So first of all, why it is in news? So the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, it has restricted the manufacture, sale and distribution of fixed dose combination medicines containing these two things, that is chlorpheniramine maleate and phenylephrine hydrochloride. Okay, this is in fixed dose combination. What is a fixed dose combination? It means that when they are combined in a single medicine with a certain proportion. Okay, when two things, suppose say I'm talking about two parts of this and three parts of this. Okay, so that would be a 2 is to 3 composition in the FDC, that is fixed dose combination. It means that every tablet or every the way I intake it, in whatever form I intake it, I will be taking in two parts of this first chemical and the three parts of the second chemical. Okay, even if my body does not require the second chemical, still I would be taking it because it is the fixed dose combination. All right, and that is the reason that the government in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has stated that for children who are below 4 years, this type of FDC must not be there. Okay, this type of FDC must not be there. So let us see. For this drug, you have the function as it acts as an antihistamine. Okay, it reduces the allergy symptoms such as runny nose or sneezing. And this chemical, it is a decongestant. It will reduce the nasal congestion when you catch cold. Okay. Now, what the government has done, it has not completely banned it. It is not a complete ban. If you see this question in the prelims that it has completely banned, it has not banned it. It has only restricted it for children below the age of 4 years because of the potential health risks and availability of safer alternatives. Okay, why should you take both of these drugs? Because simply because they are formed in the composition in the fixed dose composition combination. Okay, what are manufacturers supposed to do? Manufacturers must prominently display the warning: fixed dose combination shall not be used in children below 4 years of age. And this warning has to be appearing there on the label, on the package insert, and the promotional literature. Which act? Now, this is important. This is important that the notification has been issued under Section 26A of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940. Now, what does the Section 26A of the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 say? It says that the central government can regulate and prohibit manufacture, sale, or distribution of a drug when necessary in the public interest. In the public interest. Okay. So, this is about FDC. Now, coming to the last part, this is again from your PIB. National Animal Database Control Program. This is for your livestock. Okay. So, what is NADCP? It was launched in September 2019 with the objective of controlling and eventual eradication of FMD and brucellosis. These are two livestock diseases. Livestock diseases. The approach is that there would be mass vaccination, there would be disease surveillance, and digital livestock tracking. Okay, all of these will be there. That means all the cattle that are being affected because of this, they will be having a mass vaccination drive, and then there will be disease surveillance, and it will also be tracked digitally. Okay, so now it is integrated under the broader livestock health and disease control program. This NADCP is now integrated under LHDCP. This is important. Now, for these two diseases, you have been asked in the PYQs. So let us read about them. Disease, there is foot and mouth disease. FMD is foot and mouth disease. The target, it will target only the susceptible livestock. Okay, vaccination has to be given twice every year. You talk about brucellosis, the female bovine calves aged 4 to 8 months, these are the ones that are targeted and they get vaccination once in lifetime. But what are these diseases? So foot and mouth disease, it is highly contagious. Please remember this, it's a viral disease. This is a viral disease and it affects the cloven hooved animals. Example, cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, pigs. Okay, wide range of animals it will affect. What are the major effects on it? If there is foot and mouth disease with an animal, the milk production will go down. Okay, that is why it can also affect the income of the owners. A lot of people would depend upon the animals, the livestock. All right, maybe for dairy, maybe for some other purpose, right? So milk production will go down, their growth will go down, reproduction ability will go down, drought capacity, the kind of work that they can do, that is also going to go down. Okay, and therefore you will also face in the global market there will be export restrictions. Okay, what about brucellosis? Unlike FMD, it is a bacterial disease. It is a bacterial disease. It is found in cattle or buffaloes, caused by Brucella abortus. Okay, Brucella abortus, please remember it is a bacterial disease, primarily attacks the reproductive system and causes infertility or reproductive problems and reduced lactation, that means milk producing ability. Therefore you will have again lower milk or meat production. Is there a treatment for it? No, there is no curative treatment for the affected bovines, and therefore you will find that this vaccination is critical for their survival. Now, some important data that was given in PIB for these two diseases. FMD vaccination has taken place, and how much doses have been administered? 147 crore doses have been administered, and 8 crore farmers have been benefited. There has been considerable decrease in the number of FMD outbreaks. This is something that you can write in your mains exam also. So 132 it was there in 2019. Now it is reduced to 40 in 2025. What about brucellosis? 22 in 2019 and then it has reduced to 15 in 2025. And lastly, livestock that are digitally registered 39 plus crores. That means more you are registering them, the more you are able to track on which stage of disease they are or whether the vaccination is done or not. Along with that, you have mobile veterinary units. 4019, it served 136 lakh farmers and treated 270 lakh animals. Okay, so here we come to an end of this newspaper analysis. For some of you, is the voice clear? For a lot of you. So we have come to an end, right? So I would suggest that you increase the volume once. Okay, and also for those of you who are finding it hard to read, maybe there is a problem, but you can just download it. I will be sharing this PDF. You can download it, and the pictures as well as the text on the slides would be clear to you. Okay, I'll be sharing the PDF, so don't worry. Okay, chalo fir. All the best. Bye bye. Let's meet in the next class.